everyone, it's HaruInKorea, and today I wanted to make a video about how me and my co-teacher teach and the teaching methods that we use. So to start off with, I mentioned this in a lot of videos, but a lot of people don't watch all my videos. So for anybody who's new here, I teach at a hagwon in Korea. I work with 4-year-old students in a city called Daejeon, and you know, it's not the easiest job in the world. When the students first come to me, they don't know any English. It's their first time at a hagwon probably, and we have to teach them everything, and it can literally drive you insane because it's crazy at first, but then by the end you have these wonderful students and you're like, oh, all of the craziness and the tears in the beginning were worth it. And it is worth it, but it is very difficult. So a lot of the times when students don't listen, I see a lot of teachers doing it. I used to do it, so I'm not blaming any teachers, and if that's a teaching method that works for you, then great. But I see a lot of teachers just yelling at the students, just guilting them to make them listen, just kind of making them feel bad, and not in the way of feeling bad like, oh, you're making Miss Brianna really sad, but in the way of, why would you do this? How could you do this? And I'm just like, okay. And I get it, students drive you insane. In my first year of teaching, I didn't know what I was doing, so I really did think like negative reinforcement and yelling was the way to get the students to listen, because scaring them seemed to work in the beginning. Like if you wanted immediate results, scaring them or yelling at them or making them feel guilty about something just immediately got them to behave. Sometimes, unless you had like a really, you know, certain type of student, then that just didn't work. But for the most part, as a whole, like class, if you wanted the whole class to listen, just yelling at them pretty much immediately got them to work. And so when I first came to Korea, I didn't really know how to teach. I never taught before, and my first co-teacher kind of had a very harsh but motherly type of teaching method. So she would yell at the students but also show them love, and so it kind of confused me. So I would kind of do the same. Like I would yell at the students, but I would still try to show them love, and I felt like it worked, but it wasn't giving me the type of relationship that I wanted with my students. So I came to a new hagwon, and the first year I tried to use the same teaching method, and I realized about the first week into my new class that that was not going to work. And my co-teacher had a totally different teaching method from me. She was not a yeller at all. Like she didn't yell. She's like, I don't like to raise my voice. I don't want to scare the students. And our class was crazy. Literally crazy. Students were not listening at all. We had about maybe 4 to 5 different students crying like a day, like, and that's not normal. Like you usually have like maybe 1 student cries, maybe 2 or something like that, but we had like 5 students crying a day. We had 3 students who just would sit in the corner because they didn't want to participate. Like it was such a crazy class. And as like a Korean teacher, it's kind of more of their job in the beginning to discipline the students, because the students don't understand English, so the co-teacher needs to be that like discipliner. But my co-teacher wasn't a yeller, and so I would get very annoyed. I was like, this is not going to work. These students are not working. Like I would be sitting in the middle of class, like trying to read the students a story, and I have maybe 3 out of 12 students listening, and it was driving me insane. Like I was getting annoyed with my co-teacher. I'm sure she was getting annoyed with me. Like I was trying to yell to get the students to work, and she's a very like loving and understanding and not yelling type of person. And eventually one day I just sat and thought about it, and me and her had kind of talked about it, and like I didn't know that she didn't like yelling. Like I didn't find this out till later. She said like, I just don't like to scare students. That's just not something I want to do. Like I want to be understanding and encouraging to the students. That's what I want to do. And after we had this conversation, I was like, you know what? We're gonna try this out. I'm gonna give every drop of energy I have to loving these students, and we're gonna see what happens. And I would say, literally, I'm not being dramatic here, I would say almost immediately the results were different. Like even my co-teacher, even though she was being very loving with the students, it was a very difficult class, so even she was getting annoyed. She just wasn't yelling at them, but we were both very annoyed and frustrated. But once we talked it out and we kind of got each other's methods of teaching, we both kind of agreed, okay, we have a class with lots of students who need special care, so we have to love them extra hard so that, you know, it would just work out better for them. Like those students were not going to respond to yelling anyway. So once me and my co-teacher fully gave almost every ounce of energy we had to loving these students, the results immediately changed. And so what I mean by that is number one, we don't yell at our students. Unless a student is about to jump out a window or the entire class is just screaming and I need to yell very quickly to get their attention, I do not yell at my students. And even if I'm yelling to get their attention, I'll just give a quick, hey! And that's it. I'm not directly yelling at any one particular student. I'm not trying to call out any one particular student. And so we just don't yell at the students anymore. And I feel like that's crazy to think about. Like, how could you get the attention of 4 years old students without yelling at them? But we're just very calm with them. We're very collected. Like, if this class is going crazy and we're trying not to yell, we'll try to do like little games and clapping the activities. We'll be like, everybody clap your hands. And then everybody, I don't know why, kids just love to clap. So they'll kind of stop and clap their hands. And once we get their attention, I was like, okay, great. Miss Brianna's talking. Can you guys all sit down? And for the most part, they all sit down by the end. But in the beginning, me and my co-teacher basically love these students even when we don't love them. Like, we don't know these students yet, but we're giving them all of our love pretty much on day one. So we are very dramatic, very big, very expressive with them. They could just pick up their pencil and me and my co-teacher are like, yeah, good job, great job, we're so proud of you. Like, we sound so ridiculous in class, I'm sure, but we are just so encouraging to the students. Even if they do the tiniest little thing, it's like we make it the biggest deal and the students are like, oh, I picked up my pencil, I'm a superhero, like just something like that. So I feel like just being very encouraging and very loving and expressing with the students really makes them like you. So recently I just got a new class of 4-year-old students, and it's their 3rd day. And my co-teacher's talking to the moms on the phones all the time. My co-teacher said, she's like, yeah, all of the moms are saying that their kids really love you, and that's not common, you know, with foreign teachers after the 3rd day. They're saying, oh, Miss Brianna's so nice, we're not scared of her. And the moms are so happy about that apparently, because they were really worried. I'm like, I understand that. Like, sometimes when you get a class and it's the first time they're seeing a foreign teacher, like, they're scared at first, but to be able to hear like, oh, they're not scared of me, makes me feel very happy. Like, I'm just like, okay, great, I'm doing something right. Another thing that we do is that we are very understanding with the students. And what I mean by that is they're 4 years old. So obviously they're going to do things that upset you. They're not perfect, like they're going to lie. And so one way that me and my co-teacher handle like students fighting is if one student is like really fighting and really arguing and being like, no, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. What me and my co-teacher do is, instead of just immediately grabbing the student who's probably causing the fight and just taking them outside and like talking to them or just yelling at them, we literally just sit them down. We're like, can you sit down, please? I know you're very angry right now, but can you sit down, and when you're ready to talk, you can come find Miss Brianna and Miss Emily and you can talk to us. And I feel like a lot of people would just yell, just immediately be like, you're going to the principal's office. But we are just like, you have your panic attack over here, and when you're done, you can come talk to us. So once a kid calms down, it also gives them time to like think through what happened, and they calm down, and then they're more ready to come and talk. And then we bring the other student that was part of the fight too, and we're like, hey, can each of you guys tell us your story? And you want to make sure each student feels heard. So you're like, okay, we'll start with you, and then when you're finished, you can talk. And by the end, like if you let the like situation kind of diffuse for like 10 minutes, by that time the students aren't so angry anymore. Like, they've really calmed down, and so it's a lot easier to talk with them. It's a lot easier to hear both sides of the story, and you can hear like, oh, like you didn't want to share because of this. Next time, can you ask like this, or just something like that. So once the students are calm, it's a lot easier to talk to them. And I feel like in the beginning when I first started teaching, like, I don't know why, like students who were like crying or having panic attacks annoyed me, but then I really had to stop and think, like, I cry and have panic attacks all the time, and I'm almost 24 years old. So why am I judging a 4-year-old student who's crying and having a panic attack? Like, I'm like, I have to be understanding with them. And in the same way, if a student lies to me, instead of being like, why did you lie to me? That was so bad of you. Like, how could you do that? Like, me and my co-teacher are like, well, I know you're really scared, and you don't need to be scared, okay? You can tell us the truth honestly. Can you tell me what happened? And we don't immediately go like, even if I know what they're saying is not true, I'm not gonna be like, no, you're a liar. I'll be like, can you think about it one more time? Can you do this? Like, let's think about it this way. And me and my co-teacher are just so calm with the students that it really seems to work. Like, it seems like by the end of the year our students really love us. So if I want the class to listen by the end of the year, like if they're making me upset, literally all I have to do is pretend to like start crying or something, or just pretend that Miss Brianna's really sad, and then the students, like, they genuinely love me enough to be like, oh, we don't want to make Miss Brianna sad, so they'll be like, everybody listen, everybody listen, everybody listen. Like, and I'm telling you, in the beginning it's very hard, but by the end, when they love you, it makes it so much more worth it. Another thing that I think is important with teaching is me and my co-teacher, we don't really force students to do things that they don't want to do. Like, obviously if there's work that they need to do, we kind of have to figure out a way for them to do it. But if in the beginning they immediately are just like, no, I don't want to do this, I'm not doing it, we'll be like, okay, you can go take a break. Maybe you need some rest time. And after you're done with your rest time, Miss Emily or Miss Brianna will come talk to you. And then we'll go and talk to them and we'll be like, can you tell me why you don't want to do this? And then they'll tell us why. And we'll usually be able to talk out, like, we'll be able to come to some type of agreement or some type of compromise and how they can do it. And a lot of the times it's just the student is either tired or they think it's too hard and they just want help. And so it's that simple. But if you immediately judge a student for being like, no, I don't want to do this, I'm not going to do it, and then you're just like, no, you have to do it, you have to do it, then the student's going to feel like overwhelmed and they're not going to want to do whatever you're asking them to do. So me and my co-teacher are more of like, oh, okay, you can go take a break, and then we'll ask you why you don't want to do it. And then usually if we ask them and we figure out the reason, like I said, we're kind of able to come to a compromise. And usually that compromise is, oh, the teacher will help you. Like, that's it. That's how simple it is. Like, we were just very helping and very loving with the students. Before I end this video, I just want to tell this story about a student that I had last year. So this story kind of just shows the importance of coming to work in a good mood. So it was one of those days where I was having a bad day. I didn't have the energy to teach. And so if I'm in a bad mood, it just negatively affects my students. And so the students are just going crazy. It's driving me crazy. Like, I was not having a good time. And I felt like it was one of those days where I just couldn't do it. So at my school, we have playtime. And I'm just sitting down during playtime and I'm watching the students. But during this time, I was pretty much just dissociating. This little girl comes up to me and she's just like, Miss Brianna. And I was like, yeah. And she has this little plastic kitchen knife because it's one of the toys, and she just starts pretending to cut my chest. And I know that sounds weird, but there's a point to this story. And I'm still kind of dissociating, but I'm now intrigued by whatever she's trying to do. But I'm also like, should I stop her? Is this violent? And so after she's done pretending to do that, she like pretends to hold like my heart in her hand. She's like, I have Miss Brianna's heart. And then she goes like this and she kisses it, and then she puts it back in my chest. That's what she said she did. And then she's like, Miss Brianna, I fixed your broken heart. And then she's like, don't be sad. And I was like, that was literally the cutest thing in the world. Like, I think I was PMSing this day because like I was in near tears. Like, anything can bring me to tears during that time. And so I was just like almost crying, and it just made me realize like the students can really tell when I'm not in a good mood. And so I'm not saying you have to come to work in a great mood like every single day. Like, that's not possible. Like, we all have good days and bad days, and it's not possible for us to be happy all the time. And there are times when you're going to be sad or upset or just really overwhelmed and annoyed maybe with your class. But I feel like just try to go into work with like the expectation that even if you're having a hard day, you're going to try not to take it out on the students. Like, maybe you don't have a lot of energy for the day, so you're going to be more tired and you need to relax more, and you can't put all of your like big voice and like big movements into class. But just don't take it out on the students, because the students know. They know when their teacher's personality changes. They know when their teacher's sad. Like, that little girl knew that I was having a bad day and how it affected all of my class. And so I was like, I can't come to work in a bad mood anymore, or at least I can't like project that onto my students. So yeah, I know this video was random. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys later. Bye.